Hello and welcome to another episode of Country Fried, bringing you the best country music conversations. My name's Ryan Harmon, and just like always, I've got a good one for you today. We're taking a trip to the Arkansas Country Music Awards. Our friends Nathan Honeycutt and Charles Hames invited us out to the second annual ceremony earlier this year, and not only did we have a great time, but we came back with a lot of great stuff, and that's what we're featuring today. We'll be talking with 80s country icon Sylvia and up-and-coming Arkansas singer-songwriter Heath Sanders. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Kicking it all off is Sylvia. Now, when you talk about recognizable artists with a signature sound, Sylvia's got to be at the top of that list. Her mix of country and pop came at the perfect time in the 80s, but even as well as she fit in, she still found a way to stand out from the crowd with her own style and her own identity. Just listen to songs like Tumbleweed or Nobody, and you'll hear exactly what I'm talking about. And oddly enough, those songs were both written by Kai Fleming and Dennis Morgan, who wrote a lot of Sylvia's hits, as well as other country classics like Smoky Mountain Rain, recorded by Ronnie Millsap, and I Was Country When Country Wasn't Cool, recorded by Barbara Mandrell. Now, Kai Fleming was born in Pensacola, Florida, but she spent a lot of time here in Arkansas, and we're proud to claim her. She was honored at this year's Arkansas Country Music Awards with the Lifetime Achievement Award, and Sylvia was there to pay tribute to her friend with a great performance. But enough talking about it. Let's get right into my conversation with Sylvia, right here on Country Fried. So let's just get started with why you're here tonight. You're here to pay tribute to your friend Kai Fleming, iconic Arkansas songwriter. Talk about what it means to be here tonight for Kai.
It's a real honor to be here tonight. I've known Kai Fleming since she first moved to Nashville in 1977. I was working at a music publishing company on Music Row called Pie Jim Music. She signed to that publishing company, and we became fast friends from that moment. A couple years later, we actually went to Vegas and sang backup for Barbara Mandrell. I had just gotten my deal with RCA in the end of 1979, and so I've known Kai and Dennis Morgan and Kai Fleming wrote many of the hits that I had. The biggest one that I had with them is Nobody, and they wrote Tumbleweed, which was my first top 10 record, just on and on. A lot of the songs that I recorded were their songs. And so to be here tonight and celebrate their success, not only with me, but Ronnie Millsap and Barbara Mandrell and all the other people, it's incredible.
Well, talk a little bit about how this came together. I mean, how exactly did you get involved? Did the organizers call you?
Yes, they were. Charles Hames, who's one of the organizers, called me, and I've known Charles for a while through the years. And he and I got to talking one day, and I was, he talked about the show, and I knew Kai Fleming was from Arkansas, and just one thing led to another, and so a better part of a year we've been talking about this, and it's just amazing to be here. And I think Arkansas has such a wealth of talent. It is just unbelievable. And so to be here tonight and witness artist after artist, musician after musician stand on that stage and perform has been really wonderful to behold.
But you're not from Arkansas, right?
No, I'm not. I'm from Indiana, actually. But my dad's from Tennessee, so I have roots in the South, and I spent a lot of time in the South growing up, and of course I've performed around here. So I've performed at the Vapors in Hot Springs several years ago, and and that's kind of renowned around this area. So I love this part of the country.
Well, you probably grew up in an area that's pretty similar to Arkansas, I guess.
Oh, yes, and all my dad's people are from a holler in Tennessee in Macon County, and so, I grew up, we had a garden every summer. I canned in the summer. I mean, I'm out there hoeing in the hot sun. I mean, I'm a country girl at heart, really.
So what was the moment that made you say, I want to do this for a living?
Well, it wasn't the very first time I knew that I wanted to do this for my life. At age 3, I was asked to sing at church, and I sang Jesus Loves Me, and literally I heard a voice in my head say, as I was singing, this is what you do. This is what you do. I just knew this is what I did in life. And then a few years later, I heard the voice of Patsy Cline wafting off the radio, and I went, oh my gosh, who is that? And it actually was quite a while before I knew that she was no longer with us, because she had passed on many years before I discovered her. But her music, Tammy Wynette, Tanya Tucker, there were just lots of great female singers. I've always have gravitated to female singers. But I also grew up in the Midwest, so I listened to WLS Chicago, and I would hear Karen Carpenter, whose voice I loved. I love female singers, and there are a lot of great singers in country music. So I was very inspired to move to Nashville as soon as I graduated high school.
So when you moved to Nashville, what direction were you wanting to go in musically? Because when nobody comes on the radio, I immediately know what it is and who it is, because it doesn't sound like everybody else. So when you got started, what was your goal musically and who were your influences?
Well, that's a good question. I was listening to a lot of different artists, but honestly, what I was trying to do was find my own voice. There was a wise man down on Music Row that I met with early on who said to me after I played in my little demo tape, he turned it on, turned it off a few seconds later, and he said, we've already had a Patsy Cline, because I was singing a Patsy Cline song. He said, you know what we need? We need a Sylvia. And it really had a huge impact on me. And from that point on, of course I listened to my favorite singers, but I thought, well, how would I sing this song? Not trying to imitate. But that's how all singers learn. We learn by imitation first, and then if we're smart, and really want to do this for our life's work, we try to figure out, how do I interpret this music? How do I make this my own? That's the goal. And so from there on, I was just exploring my own voice, really.
Well, and speaking of exploring your own voice, on your latest album, It's All in the Family, you co-wrote a lot of those songs.
It's All in the Family, yes. I co-wrote a lot of those songs on the record. My friend John Mock, who I've worked with since 1991, he's a composer. He writes beautiful music, and he wrote the music. And my friend Tom Schuyler and another friend of mine, Bobby Tomberlin, co-wrote the lyrics together on almost everything on the record.
So, as someone who's recorded other people's songs as well as your own songs, what are the challenges you face when you're looking at a song that someone else wrote and trying to make it your own as opposed to a song that is your own?
That's a great question, because my first, my hits in the 1980s were songs that other people wrote, and I was very lucky that these people that were writing songs for me, basically, like Kai Fleming and Dennis Morgan, I knew them. They were my friends, so they knew me, and they knew how to write songs for me. I don't think I went to a whole other level of interpretation of music and singing when I began in earnest writing my own songs and co-writing with other people, because then I had never heard anybody else sing it, and I had to say, okay, how do I want to sing this? So it took me to this whole other level of interpretation, and you just keep growing from there. It's a never-ending growth cycle. In the last 3 years, I've made 2 records. I'm in the process of making a third, and I keep finding the voice I have today. I had a wonderful voice teacher named Gerald Arthur for over 30 years. I went every Wednesday at 11:30 and had these amazing voice lessons with him. And he inspired me in so many ways. But one of the things he always would say, sometimes I would come in, I'd be frustrated because maybe the week before I was singing great, and then this week it's like, what happened? And he said, sing with the voice you have right now. Not the voice I had last week or last month, or, and that really taught me a lesson. How do I align with where my voice is today and sing with that voice?
Well, we're here tonight celebrating country music, more specifically country music in Arkansas. What does country music mean to you?
Country music for me in the roots of country music, there's a genuine, authentic desire to tell a story and to connect with people in a way that says, haven't you felt like this too? That's the core. It's relational. And I'm drawn to music that tells a story and that paints a picture. And that's what I like to write. I like when I sing a song to see it unfolding as I sing it. And to me, that's what country music at its best does so well.
Beautiful. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but is there anything that we haven't covered that you think we should have?
Well, I think we've covered quite a bit. I just want people to know that I'm still singing, even though I'm not on the current radio as much as I used to be back in the day, but I still record as an independent artist, and my music's on the internet, and I have a website, sylviamusic.com. And
well, since you brought that up, I didn't know that you were recording independently, and some people would argue that an established artist like yourself doesn't necessarily need a major label, especially when you can take your music directly to your audience. So talk about the pros and cons of being an independent artist versus being on a major label in this day and age.
Well, when I was an artist on a major label, RCA, in the 80s, you have this whole machine behind you. I mean, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are making sure your music gets to radio, that you get on all these television shows, that you get the visibility. And there's all this stuff going on behind the scenes. When you're an independent artist, like I've been since 1996, on my own label, Red Pony Records, you're wearing a lot of the hats. Maybe you have 2 or 3 people around you that are doing some pieces of it, but it's a lot more challenging, but it's a lot more freeing as well. I mean, I can record and write and do what I want. I can make the production sound exactly like I want them to sound. I don't have to try to thread that needle of what is country radio going to want to play. So there's a lot more artistic freedom, but there are also challenges of how you get the music out there and the word out there that you're still making music. So there's pros and cons, but I'm so grateful that I've had all those experiences, that I got to experience what it was like on a major label and actually have success, which, I cannot claim all the credit. There were so many people involved that made that happen. The writers, the musicians, the promotion people. I mean, it's just incredible how many people it takes to have a successful career. But I love the freedom that I have now to tell my story in music and make the records in the way that I imagine them to sound, and then try to make that happen. It's a beautiful thing.
Sylvia, thanks so much. I appreciate it. It was really a pleasure talking with Sylvia. It's always a cool feeling to be face-to-face with the people that you heard so much on the radio growing up. Sylvia's latest releases, It's All in the Family, which was her first new album in 14 years, and Second Bloom, which features new recordings of her classic songs, are available now. You can find out more about that, her tour dates, and even more at sylviamusic.com. Next up, we've got Arkansas's own Heath Sanders. Now, for the very few of you who haven't heard Heath's story, you're about to. But first, let me give you a little synopsis. Heath was working in an oil field when he decided to pick up a guitar and start posting cover songs online. After posting his version of Chris Stapleton's Either Way, Heath became quite literally an overnight sensation. The next day, the video had been picked up by multiple music outlets, and it even caught the attention of one of the biggest radio personalities in the country, Bobby Bones, another Arkansas native. Bobby invited Heath to perform live on the air in front of some very special guests, which we'll talk about a little later. And it was that day when Heath debuted his song, Bloodline. Since then, he's been performing across the country and writing more great songs. The only difference is now he's writing those songs for Sony ATV, where he signed a publishing deal earlier this year. Heath won the award for Acoustic Act of the Year at this year's Arkansas Country Music Awards, and certainly anyone who's seen him perform knows that that's very well deserved. He's a great singer, a great songwriter, and a great performer, and I'm so glad we were able to catch up with him for an interview. It's Heath Sanders, right here on Country Fried. All right, we're here at the Arkansas Country Music Awards with Heath Sanders. Heath, let's just start off where most people probably first heard about you. You were an oil field worker, and then you started getting into music.
I was working for Southwestern Energy at the time, based out of Cleveland, Arkansas. Just working on gas wells and doing all that, and they ended up cutting our hours, man, and I picked up a guitar, and that was about a year ago now, and here we are today,
And the song that really got it all started for you, even though you had already been posting covers online, of course, was your cover of Either Way by Chris Stapleton, and it literally was an overnight success. Talk about the moment when you first realized that it had become such a viral video.
Yeah, so I had been for several months posting things on Facebook and all that, and videos and covers and all that, and the one song that changed everything was Either Way by Chris Stapleton. And it literally was an overnight life-changing experience. I mean, I woke up the next day and hundreds of thousands of views on the video, and And then of course I got a call from a radio DJ that's syndicated nationwide, and he changed my life in one phone call. So it's been a wild ride, and it's been crazy, but just be prepared for anybody out there looking to live their dreams. I mean, just be prepared for it, because it can change in a second.
And you didn't think it was really Bobby Bones at first, right?
I didn't think it was Bobby Bones. No, I didn't. My phone went off, and I'm actually sitting there writing the first song that I'd ever written, and the phone goes off, and it's Bobby, and of course I hit him back, and I was like, man, this ain't even Bobby Bones. And he's like, sure it is. I'm gonna have my producer call you. And as soon as he sent that message, the phone rang, and it was one of their producers. So
was that the song that you played on the show?
Yes, it was Bloodline. I actually started it that day, and I think we had 2 weeks to finish it and get it learned. And I was sitting in the motel room the night before the in-studio live on-air performance, sitting there learning that song in the motel room. So yeah, it was stressful, to say the least.
So when you actually went into the studio for the first time, did you know in advance exactly who he was going to bring in? I mean, I know he said he was bringing in people from the music business to listen to you, but did he tell you who it was?
I had no idea, especially Christian Bush. Obviously Brian Wright and higher-ups like that in labels at Universal and Sony and all that. I'm not going to know their names, but I do know who Christian Bush is. And he walked in the room, in the green room, and I was just like, oh my God, Christian Bush is here. Like, I was freaking out. So
they at least told you before you went on the air. You didn't have to go in and get a surprise like that, right?
Well, they didn't tell me. They let him walk in the room and just surprise me. So yeah, that was pretty great.
Well, going back even before all of that, what was it that made you want to start doing this? I mean, there had to have been a song or an artist that sparked that initial thought of, this is what I want to do for a living.
I think from the beginning, both sides of my family, both my grandpas play, both my grandmas sing, and my parents play and sing, and so I was surrounded by it as a child. But I do recall the one moment. I was watching Garth Brooks live in Las Vegas. And the guy walks out on stage in a ball cap, a pair of Timberlands, a hoodie, and a pair of blue jeans, and an acoustic guitar, and absolutely just blows people away for the next hour and a half. And after watching that, I was like, if I ever play music for a living, that's kind of what I want to be right there. And so that stuck with me. That performance right there stuck with me.
So it has been fairly recent, I guess, because that was just a few years ago, right?
Yeah, it was probably... I'm going to say that it was 10 years ago, something like that really, and of course I didn't pick up the guitar till I was 21, so it got kind of a late start to the game, but I don't guess that matters.
Let's talk about what happened right after that appearance on the Bobby Bones show, when it went even further than the video that had grabbed his attention to begin with. Did you have people from the industry kind of pulling you aside and saying, hey, get ready, because a lot of people are going to approach you? Did you have anybody trying to help you prepare for what was about to happen?
Absolutely. Right after the show, we went up and talked to Brian Wright, who is, head A&R at Universal and the big dog. And he was one of the first ones to kind of fill me in on, hey, man, you need to mind your P's and Q's and watch folks, because there's people out here who will use you and abuse you and leave you by the wayside. And he said, just be smart, keep a head about yourself. And I think that's what we've done. I got a good team at my back, and Justin Moore's management company, L3, they manage me now, and so I got them, kind of as my guard dogs, and man, I wouldn't change a thing. It's been absolutely incredible.
So you have a publishing deal with Sony, and you've already released a couple of singles. So what are you looking at for the future? Are you planning to put out more singles, or maybe even a full album?
Yeah. So after the publishing deal with Sony, we released a couple long-awaited singles. They did pretty well. Here a few months ago, we recorded a song called Proud, written by Rhett Akins. And he actually, a few weeks ago, gave me permission to cut the song and release the song. So when Rhett Akins gives you permission to cut a song, you cut it. So that's coming. And then we've got several others that are on their way. We just got to find the studio time and we got a plan. It's just about making it come together properly.
Well, you're nominated for Acoustic Act of the Year tonight here at the Arkansas Country Music Awards. What does it mean to you to be part of this and to be embraced like this?
Being here is everything. I mean, it's everything to me. And, if you're from Arkansas, if you're not from Arkansas, this might not mean nothing to you, but to us, it's everything. I mean, music is so embedded in our culture here. most of my grandparents and even my parents sometimes, you know, they didn't have TV or anything to do outside, so they stayed in the house and played music. And you know, so to see Arkansas come together around artists like myself and others, and to show the true power of music is incredible, and it's pretty great to watch.
Well, you're still scheduled to perform here in just a little bit tonight, so I won't keep you too much longer, but since we're talking about what all of this means, what does country music mean to you?
Country music is an interpretation of our lives. For those of us who don't know how to say what our lives mean to ourselves and how we live and what that means to us, we're lucky enough to have people in Nashville and all over the United States writing country songs that tells exactly what we want to say. That's what it is to me.
Heath Sanders, thanks again. I know I'm not the first one to say this, but that guy's got a great career ahead of him, and this is only the beginning. Check out heathsanders.com for all of his latest music, tour dates, and more. I'd like to give a huge thanks to our friends Nathan Honeycutt and Charles Hames for inviting us to this year's Arkansas Country Music Awards. They're doing a lot of great stuff for local country music, and I can't wait to see what they do next. Check out arkansasmusic.org for more information. And with that, I think that'll just about do it for today. As always, thank you so much for listening. I'm Ryan Harmon, and I'll see you next time on Country Fried. Be sure to subscribe to us on your platform of choice, share this episode with your friends, and leave us a comment. We want to know what you think. I'm Ryan Harmon, and this is Country Fried, an AETN production. Find out more at aetn.org.